February the 3rd, 2025. Guys, you're looking at an article this morning. I was kind of expecting this to happen because over the weekend, one of the greatest theft operations on the planet called USAID had shut down their website completely. Been up there for a long time. And they had turned into such a anti-American group that they would, about 10% of the money that they got for USAID to other nations, basically, is all that was used for that. And in 2023, the records show that they got $40 billion, but only, if you say 10%, $4 billion went to that. Out of where did the other $36 billion go of taxpayer money? They were funding revolutions overseas, takedowns of governments if you didn't go along with certain policies. All of that, and it was a huge grift operation. We'll read more about it. But they were told this morning, again, if you noticed over the weekend, a lot of headlines were talking about USAID.gov shutdown. This morning, the staffers were told to stay home after Musk said Trump agreed to shutter it, not temporarily close it down, to shutter it, because they found out that how crooked it was. What happened, we'll read a little bit about it, is Musk had went in there probably after the 20th, after the inauguration day, which was the day that Trump ordered all foreign money sent out to be frozen, guys, to stop it right now. Don't send out anything else until we figure out what is going on. You understand what I'm saying? So this morning they're told, do not even come in. Again, they said, stay at home, don't bother to come into the office. It was a message to staffers of the U.S. Agency for International Development. That's USAID. Monday, were instructed to stay out of the agency's Washington headquarters. The advice came via notice distributed to them, AP reports, after Elon Musk announced President Trump had agreed with him to shut the agency down. According to UP, USAID staffers said they also tracked more than 600 employees who reported being locked out of the agency's computer systems overnight. Of course, they would burn it down if you didn't. Those still in the system received emails declaring, at the direction of the agency's leadership, the headquarters building will be closed to agency personnel today, Monday, February the 3rd. Shutdown came in the wake of Musk, who's leading a civilian review of the federal government with the Republican president's agreement. Again, we started out with the Treasury, then the Feds and the Reserve people getting in trouble. Now, USAID is gone, and it will be heavily investigated, I'm sure. First thing to do is cut off this faucet of all of our tax money going to all type of nefarious people around this planet and organizations. Musk, Trump, and some Republican lawmakers have targeted USAID, which oversees humanitarian, development, and security programs in some 120 counties, accusing it of losing its way. Why would they be running security programs in 120 countries? USAID, whose website vanished Saturday without explanation, has been one of the federal agencies most targeted by the Trump administration as it tackles waste within the federal government in many of its programs. Now, Musk attacked the agency by calling it a criminal organization on Sunday as Trump decried it as a run by radical lunatics and said he was considering its future. Well, they considered it overnight. And that's how you do things. If you look at the U.S. as one company, which basically it is, if you got a bunch of employees that are stealing through the back doors and all, you got to cut it off. You got to shut it down. You can't wait for Congress to approve something, because half of them are in on the grift. It said the president of El Salvador offered a foreign perspective. He said on social media, most governments don't want USAID funds flowing into their countries because they understand where much of that money actually ends up. While marketed as support for development, democracy, and human rights, the majority of these funds are funneled into opposition groups, NGOs, just like the ones that got millions and billions of dollars to facilitate the movement of people across our southern borders. Same type people. While again, NGOs with political agendas and destabilizing movements. Probably Soros was using U.S. money to do his dirty deeds. By the way, Soros just illegally, I think if the new FCC commissioner is correct, bought 260-something radio stations in the U.S. through, it was called Odyssey Corporation, Media Corporation, Odyssey. Anyway, in L.A., one of the stations he bought was, over the weekend, maybe starting Friday, was broadcasting live on their AM stations that Soros owns all over the nation. But in L.A., they were broadcasting the location of ICE agents, the type of vehicles, the markings on the vehicles, and people were obviously following them around, getting the information back to one of the biggest AM stations in California, the whereabouts of where ICE was coming in. And yesterday they blocked the 105 twice, I think it was, there in Southern California, marching on there. And the police came in, but they really didn't do a lot. They stood there and tried to block it, but you didn't see ICE coming in or anything like that. But what they're doing is they're funding the protest also. Let me say something else about these Soros radio stations. The FCC new people are saying that was slid through without necessary regulatory checks. In other words, the FCC won't just sell anyone a radio or TV station, but this was slid through without much approval at all. Louisiana, your biggest AM station out of New Orleans, I think it is Soros owned now. So what will happen with that? If what we're seeing continues, Soros and his son will be taken out of the picture. The FCC will be removed as far as the personnel in it, and all of that will be backtracked. But they snuck it in. Mainstream media didn't want to talk about it. You can look it up for yourselves. It says, at best, maybe 10% of the money reaches real projects that help people in need. There are such cases, but the rest is used to fuel dissent, finance protest, and undermine administrations that refuse to align with the globalist agenda. Trump placed an unprecedented 90-day freeze on foreign assistance on his first day in office, January 20th. Spending for USAID is determined by Congress, or it was. It's no longer an entity. Its budget for the 2023 fiscal year was about $40 billion, according to a report last month from the Congressional Research Service. So if you've sent $40 billion of our taxpayer monies, 10% would be $4 billion that maybe got somewhere. The rest was non-government organizations with political agendas destabilizing movements. Think about that. Under the guise, does it remind you of FEMA in the Carolinas? Kind of does me. Lots going on, guys. I just want to get this up. Trump put the tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. 25% Mexico and Canada, except for Canada's petroleum industry, is at 10%, and China at 10%. They are screaming foul. The stock markets this morning, they were showing the futures, and right before the bell rang at 8:30 a.m. Central Time, the Dow was down 666, just a number, I know. Anyway, then it was all being fueled by anti-Trump people and organizations. He's tearing the nation down. Let's let the futures look really crappy. Gold, silver, and oil are up this morning. But I took a couple of still shots of that opening and how it was set up. The stock markets are going to be used. You're talking about CNBC. Who is that? Peacock, NBC. We know what that is. They give you a pretty accurate number of the stock market details, but they have so much liberal bias in their reporting and in their manipulation that it's kind of funny to watch. Let's just take a look for a moment before I end this video over there and see if it has stayed at that minus 600. After the bell rang, I stayed there for a moment, and it had dropped into the 500s. Let's just check it and see if that is working against what we're trying to do with making America great again. And here's what we got. Markets have been open for almost an hour. Dow, it said The caption says Dow dropped 600 after U.S. hit key trade partners with tariffs. It's down 462, so it's off by 200 points because I saw it at 666 earlier. The S&P 7664, NASDAQ 3325. Now, guys, I don't invest in the stock market. Don't get me wrong, but it is an economic indicator of many things. A little more information coming out this morning. It says Musk on the DOGE cuts. USA is a ball of worms, no apple. We must get rid of the whole thing. About one day after the U.S. Agency for International Development's website went dark and its official X account disappeared, Trump addressed reporters Sunday night declaring it's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics and we're getting them out. By midnight, Elon Musk, who oversees the government efficiency initiative DOGE, provided taxpayers with an update on USAID status during a live X Spaces session. Musk told more than 682,000 listeners who tuned in that the president agreed we should shut it down. This would be one of the largest planned cuts to date, and the fate of USAID is likely that it will lose its independence and be rolled into the State Department. And he reemphasized, Musk did, that if you have an apple with a worm in it, you can cut the worm out. But if it's actually just a ball of worms, you have an apple with a worm in it, you can't take the worm out. If you have a whole ball of worms, it's hopeless. USAID is a criminal organization, Musk wrote, and it's time for it to die. Criminals. And usually, lately, especially when you have a lot of criminal organizations in the U.S. using our tax money, they're Democrats. Not all the time, but most of them are. And I think that needs to be looked at heavily, and a lot of this money returned into the taxpayers by the people that are doing it. If it's Pelosi, if it's Schumer, if it's Republicans, whoever's involved in this should have all assets forfeited, jailed, and all of their money, look overseas, look at the mansions, the boats, the islands, everywhere. Take it, sell it, put the money back into the taxpayer funds, and take our personal taxes away. Use the tariffs like it used to be for taxes. Don't tax the U.S. people anymore. That's one of the biggest criminal organizations there is. Now, as they dug into this, Musk said, the move to end USAID as a standalone agency comes as the DOGE creator revealed. Did you know that USAID, using your tax dollars, funded bioweapon research, included COVID-19, that killed millions of people? These people need to be arrested, tried, prosecuted, persecuted, and executed if they're convicted of mass murder, which a lot of them are. I'm talking all the way down to the doctors and nurses that have the excuse, we were just following orders. When you murder someone, you're not following orders because you were told do not kill. That means premeditated murder. That's what they were doing. Killed millions of people, he said. Now, what had happened is the Trump administration had placed the two top security chiefs at USAID on leave after they refused to turn over classified material in restricted areas to the Musk government inspection teams. A current and former U.S. official told the AP. Members of Musk's Department of Government Efficiency eventually did gain access Saturday to the aid agency's classified information, which includes intelligence reports, the former official said. Now, Trump had already ordered this freeze we talked about as on foreign aid as part of American First foreign policy. That sounds very nice, America First. Hadn't heard that in a long time. As some note, USAID had effectively served as a laundering scheme for the deep state. Now, they're saying that USAID is a front for the CIA. Well, we got a new CIA head in there now. And together with the NGOs like the Open Society Foundation, they have been using U.S. tax dollars and government resources as their personal piggy bank. It has been infuriating to watch. Hopefully now the whole truth will come out. This was Laura Logan. Musk's involvement with DOGE suggests that the rapid counteroffensive against the deep state is underway. And first things first, what had to happen? You had to get the heads out. That's why we got a new CIA guy. Patel is more than likely going to run the FBI. We got a new head of Pentagon in. It's really changing very quickly. I talked about it, I think, maybe last night in the video or yesterday. is they're cutting heads off so fast they can't grow them back. They don't know what side is being attacked. It's not the same Trump administration as the first one. He came in there trying to get things done and really didn't want to stir up the pot too much, just get things done, and he did. And he's happening now, before I forget, there's about 60% of the businesses in Canada now that are thinking about moving operations into the U.S. because of the tariffs. How do you think that will affect Trudeau, guys? Just give me your opinion in the comments. And guys, since Marco Rubio is now the head of the State Department, this could happen very quickly, rolling in this USAID, and it would be controlled. Rubio is saying this will ultimately mark a historic shift in America's role in the world. Like, remember it said earlier in the article, most nations don't want USAID in there because it's kind of like the demons coming in, taking over everything and ruining everybody's life for some type of agenda that they have. Now, Rubio just got back from a trip down to the Panama Canal also, and he came back a winner. The U.S. had built it, and now China has taken it over as part of their Silk Road Initiative. I guess that's what they call it. But Rubio went down there, came back with information that Panama's turning around. They were saying at first when Trump announced we may take the Panama Canal back, they threw a fit. But right now, after his visit, it looks like that may be going to happen, guys. You know, that's an important canal there, guys, not just for importing and exporting, but militarily. Very big deal there. And if China has control over it, you can see where the problems would come from very quickly. Looks like a lot is changing. Guys, we're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.